Hi, thanks for joining us here for I'd Rather Be a Buffalo. We appreciate you uh, tuning in, listening. Please hit like, subscribe, all that stuff. First and foremost, I'm just going to start out with this. Doug, how are you? Updates, anything like that you want to share?
Health wise, I'm in the middle of a chemo treatment. So got my port hooked up to my pump around my waist, my little fanny pack that my sisters want me to bedazzle to make it more exciting. And I'm like, no, I just can't wait to get it off me. So I'll get it off tomorrow morning and I'll start feeling a lot less nauseous. Um, and just,
When you get the port, you get the port, you have the port, and then you get the port inserted like every time that you're doing the treatment, or how
you know,
often?
the port's always there under my skin.
Right, right, right.
They access the port through a special attachment on the outside and that's taped up to my chest. And
Okay,
I have to sleep on my side or my back for the next couple of days, and then they pop it right off.
gotcha. So that's the thing that you have. So when you have when you have it on you, it's the chemo that they're giving you. The chemo's attached to the thing, and the chemo's administered over a few days. Okay.
I'd show you, but I don't want to freak people out. I joined a
Well,
meeting once while I was at the hospital because I like to work because I have nothing better to do than
yeah.
sit there and get pumped full of drugs. And I was on a call with one of my coworkers, John, and I kind of freaked him out for a bit because my shirt was open. You could see the attachment there and all the tubes coming out of me into the pumps. And
You're
he's like,
like
"Oh,
you're like Keanu Reeves in The Matrix, right? It's just like
that's right. Except I don't know kung fu."
not
Oh,
yet, not yet. You just got to get it downloaded, man. Uh, Good, buddy. Well, I hope your treatment. Did you just start your treatment at the beginning of this week?
Tuesday. It goes Tuesday through Thursday.
Copy that, man. Copy that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Uh, Good, man. We're going to talk about this today. I'd shared this with Doug. I'd had a thing that came up. I had a thing came up for me a few weeks ago. I was driving in some of my old stomping grounds a few weeks ago. I was doing a gig. I was directing some friends of mine, and it happened to bring me down into an area that I had not been in regularly for quite a time. And I'll tell you, Doug, I will try to remain as always on this show, right? I always try to I eliminate certain details to make sure that people are being kept anonymous, and I'm not, putting people in the hot seat. But it was a time where Kate and I were, just starting off our marriage, and we're like brand new with the kids. And when we were first down in this area, down in Southern California, it was not an easy time period for us. There was actually a lot of things that happened within those few years that were really, really challenging. Some of those include different personalities that we have in our life, not our personalities, other personalities that have been a part of our life over the years. And yeah, one person in particular all of a sudden just kind of came to the forefront. And it's interesting because here I was driving and having this triggered by a geographic location. And all of a sudden being in this geographic location and having all of the memories of the last time that I was down there, and then associating all that time of when I was down there with these certain interactions with this person. And I'll tell you, Doug, I got filled with waves of anger and resentment. And it was
Yeah.
interesting because it really turned into it was like a domino effect. Because when I started thinking about one person, it caused me to start thinking about a number of other people that were in my life. And I would say the biggest thing that happened for me was the first and foremost thing that came to top of my mind was, if I could show them now where I am. I wish that I could show them now all of the frustration, challenges, curveballs that got thrown at us over the years. Boy, I sure would like to show that person, And it was a feeling of, it was really a feeling of anger, resentment, kind of getting evenness. And, I was very fortunate in that moment because number one, I literally had this wave of feelings come over me. about 30 or 40 minutes before I'm supposed to start this gig. Like I'm supposed to walk into a gig and be just like, hey guys, here's the work we're going to be doing and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I'm dealing with this stuff. I was fortunate that I was able to arrive at the location I was supposed to be working at. And I got there probably about 20 minutes earlier. And you know what I did? I literally just I started praying and I started writing out some of the stuff, like really like writing out the things. And fortunately kind of dissipated in that moment and was able to kind of just like refocus and go, okay, let me just shrug that off and let's get back to it. But man, it was bizarre. Like it was a thing that just kind of came out of the blue. And I know there's some things that we're gonna talk about here in this episode in just a second, but have you experienced that yourself?
Absolutely. With people of resentment towards God,
Yeah.
it's yeah. Oddly enough, you said that like last week, someone posted something on Facebook about one of our grade school pictures, and two of my friends were on the same page together, that yearbook. This was like maybe eighth grade, seventh grade. I forget what year it was. And I'm like reading through them, like I could see the people and remember what they were like in high school and see that, still recognize them as youngsters. And I came across the guy who was my main bully throughout middle school and high school,
Yeah.
but middle school, junior high, and high school. And this instant desire to like, because in my yearbooks, I just scratched through his picture and scratched over his name. I wanted to erase him from my life because he tormented me.
Yeah.
Never physically hurt me, but the fear of him was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I just like it popped up again. And then, today's the 16th anniversary of my son's passing, and you can't help but be resentful a little bit, resentful at him for taking him out of my life the way he did through suicide, resentful towards God, like with all the stuff that we had been through and him turning corners and doing better. And then that to happen was just, devastating, heartbreaking.
We're recording this at the time that we're recording this it's December 2023. That's when
Yeah.
In December was when Richie's son took his life years ago.
Doug's
16.
son. Yeah.
Yeah, over 16 years ago.
Yeah.
And hence the Santa cap that's in the background when you see it. Doug, how the heck do you process that? Because I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, specifically when you're talking about Richie's, passing. I mean, it's like, and this is one of the things that are this is the fallout that happens from suicide. I mean, it's like, as much as somebody says, and again, I know you can't speak specifically for Richie, but that moment ago when people just go, well, I just want to, I just want my pain to end. And it's really not just about your pain, right? It's like it's the residual stuff that also happens with other people. But how the heck do you process that? And elaborate a little bit more on this with the resentment that you have towards God, because this is something that I've actually have learned about and discussed in Celebrate Recovery over the years, is that people sometimes have, they hold a grudge and resentment and anger towards God with this. And it turns out sometimes in their amends process, they need to go, Lord, I got to make amends to you. Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had to, a lot of things, I could say about this, because it's not just a once and done deal. It's a process. Just like grief is a process through the rest of your life, overcoming resentment, seeking forgiveness, those things are processes through the rest of life. I think a couple of things, and I remember clearly because he died on the 13th. We buried him on the 15th. The 17th, I believe, was Sunday with church. And I called my pastor, and my pastor did the funeral for me. I did my dad's funeral. I'm like, I can't do my own son's funeral. I'm not capable. And he perfectly, we talked through what I'd like and what I, wouldn't like there. And, wanted him to share the gospel and some other things. And have people talk about Richie's life and what their, good memories. And that Sunday at church, I called him ahead of time, like, I'm coming to church. I'm always there a little bit early. I'm going to be late. I'm going to sit in the very back. And right before the last worship, I'm going to go. I said, I'm angry with God, but I know this is where I need to be. But I also need to protect myself from everyone wanting to come up and hug me. And I'm a hugger, but I just needed that because all the awkwardness, and it was as much for them as it was for me. It's like seeing me for the first time after the funeral, and it's like wanting to love on me, which I appreciated so much. I got so much good support during that time. Um, but I also didn't want to be smothered by them asking how I was doing because I didn't know how I was doing. I couldn't put that into words at the
Well,
time.
and there's an interesting thing too, which sort of ties in a little bit with what your cancer journey has been too, is that there's almost a little bit of like part of that's almost like you're almost comforting them, in a way, where there's
Yeah,
almost like kind of going, great, totally get it. Yes, the check mark is the box is checked off. I will remember that you thanked me for my right. It's like I get it. Thank you for sharing your condolences, but then it ends up becoming this endless cycle of just like now I get
yeah,
to relive this, dozens more times today, and I've got nothing left in the tank. And it does
right.
feel like that. It just feels like I don't have it. I don't
Yeah,
have it in me because we've talked about this before too, with, especially when it comes to death and passing away, the stuff that we have in North America. I know you shared that with somebody that reached out to us on social media, but the way that we process death in North America, you know, in 21st century North America, people want tidy little bows on everything. And it's like, yeah, I kind of feel numb and I have nothing. I've got nothing
yeah,
for you, you know?
yeah,
That just sort of kind of came to my mind, which is like, yeah, thanks. It's almost, it's almost like you want to tell people, um, that's the thing that I appreciate about what Job's friends got right when he first went through his tragedy and loss and all the everything he was going through. They sat with him in ashes and sackcloth in silence. They just sat with him, you know.
yeah.
It wasn't
And
until
that's what
then.
my best friends did. They just sat with me.
Yeah,
They sat with me after my divorce. They sat with me after Richie's passing. They've sat with me through my cancer journey, and they've just been there for me and not, we can talk, we can sit in silence,
yeah,
you know.
totally. So how do you get through this? So let's unpack the two things because I'll spin it back around to some of the stuff that I figured out over the years. How the heck do you deal with your specific resentments that you have, particularly towards your son, towards
I
God?
have to start with seeking out the truth, understanding what I had control over, what I did not have control over,
Mm,
understanding what he was trying to understand what he was going through by talking to his boss and his best friend at the time because he quit his job the day he committed suicide out of the blue. Um, the toxicology report that came back was all negative. He had nothing in his system. And so that took me back to his biological mother, who was bipolar. And seeing some of his responses that week led me to believe he was having a very bad bipolar episode. Didn't know what it was himself because he'd never been diagnosed with it. He was living on OSU campus, so I wasn't around him enough, daily like I used to be to see what he was going through in order to help him seek the help, help him find the help they needed. But seeking out the truth that way and seeking out God's word and just understanding the truth of who I am, why I'm here,
yeah.
why God made me the way he made me, which we've had a lot of arguments about that over the years. I'm like, God, you made me this way, so you shouldn't be unhappy that I'm sinning at this moment or being resentful, or which to me, resentment is a form of sin. But seeking the truth, because even when I got diagnosed with this, I came across this verse in Isaiah I'd never read it before, and I'm not going to quote it well, but sometimes God takes good people out of the world to save them from what's to come.
Okay.
I don't know if that's what's happening,
Sure.
but okay, that's at least an explanation for why I'm going through what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I get an early exit into the kingdom.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I think that definitely going through that process, especially that resentment, it's exactly what you talked about. It is literally a lifelong process. I mean,
Yeah.
even the stuff that I had experienced just a few weeks ago, because I've had versions of this too, having gone through program. You go through, you make amends, or you grant forgiveness to those people that have hurt you over the years. And as much as I've done that, those feelings come back every once in a while. And there are
Yeah.
definitely times, there have been moments in my life where I've thought, Lord, is this like a Paul's thorn thing for me? Is this going to be like a Paul's thorn thing for me where I am always going to feel this for the rest of my life and it's not going to be removed? Here's the interesting thing is that over time, it has been slowly removed for certain
Hmm.
people with me with this.
Yeah.
Like there were certain things where I thought like, oh, the sting of this is never going to go away. Like this is going to come up. I'm going to feel this miserably and nothing I can do about it. And I guess that's part of it. And then I've realized like over time, I've started to realize like, oh, that is starting to dissipate. I'm not feeling such a strong feeling before. Now it's very challenging because resentment can be a very because it releases such strong emotions, right? That there's something about it that as wacky as this is going to sound, there's a part of it that almost relishes the feelings that happen.
Hmm.
There was some research that I was doing that sometimes there are these feelings that are released within us biochemically when we have resentment, where it's almost the feeling of it's wisdom from the distance of the thing that happened with us. And this, I'm going to speak specifically in a situation where you've been wronged, okay, where somebody has
Right.
specifically wronged you, and there's enough distance where you've gained the wisdom and understanding of what happened was wrong, and there's almost it feels like a righteousness, a righteous anger that comes up that goes, that shouldn't have happened. As a matter
Hmm.
of fact, it shouldn't have happened. And I'm claiming this right now. And the fact that I'm feeling this, it's me putting my flag in the sand saying no, right? And that can feel kind of good. Except there's an issue that happens with that, which is it can all of a sudden, it can be a thing that we want to live in a long, long time. And then it can slowly start becoming a part of our identity, right?
Yeah.
And it can stop us from moving forward. No, there's a couple of examples that I'll share with that, but is there anything with that resonates with you as I'm sharing that?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've had to do over the years, and there's actually a small incident that happened a couple months ago that I realized I'm holding on to some resentment with a friend of mine who actually called me today to check on me. We're going to get together when I'm in Columbus in a couple of weeks. And I need to just confess to him and apologize that I've been holding this resentment towards you
Hmm.
about this small issue.
Yeah.
And that will help me get through that resentment much
Yes.
faster. Even though I honestly feel the person wronged me,
Yeah.
I'm holding on to resentment. They don't even know about it.
Totally.
And I need to get rid of it. Life's too short.
Well, there is power in that, right? Like if you have the ability with the person, right?
Yeah.
Which is a great thing that I learned from a therapist years ago of saying if something's going on, it's literally taking the moment to say, hey, here's what happened. Here's how I felt about it. Here's what I'm going to do about it in the future, right? And it's really great when you take that, when you, it's almost like you're claiming you're claiming your part in it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, I might be totally off on this, right? I mean, what a great way to start on this. I'm just gonna be transparent with you. I have had these things, and I'm not saying I'm right, but this is the stuff that's going on. Here's a situation that happened, and here's how I felt about it in the moment and afterwards. You know,
Yeah.
and here's what I need to do about it going forward. And in some cases, it's like, you know, and in some of those situations, it's very similar to our conversation that we had last week, you know,
Mhm.
about some stuff that came up from my past and all that. But to go when you're in a situation with somebody to just kind of go, yeah, here's what I'm going to do about it in the future, because there is something to be said about speaking it out, right? Particularly if you can speak it out with the person that you got the issue with, because holding it in isn't necessarily going to help you, you know. I think that there's some of those circumstances that you can't, there are some things that you can't do. The perfect example that comes up for me, especially when it comes up to like why you've got to work through these resentments, and you've got to let it go, and you have to move forward, right? The things that kind of come up for me. I had a scenario that happened. I'm going to say right now is probably, I'm going to say it was probably about a decade ago. I'm going to say it was about almost a decade ago. um, I had a pitch that I was doing for a major entertainment company. Went in, had set up the meetings, did all this stuff, and I had put this thing together. And it was because I was trying to say, hey, it's time for me to make some forward motion, make some forward moves. Let's do this. Had several meetings that had taken place over several months. Ended up having a conversation with sort of a key person, key person in leadership. And I did the presentation for the person. And at the end of the presentation, the person looked at me and they said, I'm going to be honest with you. I know that you're in a vacuum with the stuff because you don't know everything that we're working on, but I just need to let you know that the pitch that you kind of drew and put together and just did for me just exceeded a presentation that we paid an out of house consulting firm $1 million from New York. We paid them $1 million for a concept pitch, and yours just beat it with what they did. And the person at the end of it said, what I'm saying at the end of this is we need to figure out a way to get you in here to do this. I was like, it was awesome. It was just like, that's great, fantastic. And then silence for months, few touching emails, all this other stuff. Well, it turns out at that time, right around the time that I had done that, there was some major restructuring that started happening. And all of a sudden, that person that I'd had that meeting with, who'd said that person with, was let go. And I didn't have anybody else. And in the meantime, I was also seeing several other people that I had known who had kind of jumped through some, hoops and had kind of gone up the ranks. And I was just dead in the water. And I grew angry, resentful, bitter, because it felt like all of my time, energy, and effort and all that stuff was for nothing, because I had no one else. I now had no one else in my corner. And quite frankly, the only other people that I could turn to, and again, this is my opinion, my filter could totally be wrong. In my viewpoint, um, it felt like the only people that I could turn to ask for help wouldn't want me there at all, because if I was there, it would probably end up costing them their job. Right? It'd be like, why would I bring you in? If I bring you in, they're going to wonder why the heck they need me, And
Yeah.
so, and it froze me. It froze me for almost a year and a half to 2 years, where it was just like, I just thought, what's the point? All this stuff. And I kind of went into a little bit of a tailspin for a while, you know? And I think I eventually got to a point where if I, and listen, a lot of this also started to coincide with me getting sober and just realizing like, here's the deal. Uh I gotta pick myself up and just start moving. Like that's it. That's all I could do was to just go, me staying in this place isn't helping, right? It's causing me to get fatter, drunker, more bitter. Like there's nothing good that's coming from being here. And I gotta move on. I gotta move on, you know? Uh Thoughts.
Hebrews 12, I think it's 14, 15. Make every effort to live in peace with everyone and to be holy. And it's so clear and easy to read, so difficult to put into practice.
No,
But
it's the
again, it's
worst.
it's it's the end goal.
Yeah.
It's the state of becoming, which I think as Christians we're always in that state, moving forward, walking with God every day, trying to be more like Him, persevering.
I think a part of it is about we're trying for myself because I know that I deal with continuous control issues in my life, right? Like I want to know how that stuff works. And I think or how things are going to lay out. And I think quite frankly, um we're not granted that. And we're not granted that for a reason. We're not
Mm.
granted that for a reason because if we knew how it was supposed to go, right? If we knew how it was supposed to go, um, we wouldn't need him.
No,
We
nope.
wouldn't. We wouldn't need him. I'm good. I got my things. I got my things. My stuff. I know where everything is. I'm good. You know. And I think that there's a part of this journey which is about going. Yeah, things are allowed. It's one of the most difficult things that we have to live in the Christian life, right? There's such a good and loving God. Why does he allow sin, death, all this other stuff to happen to people? And that's a big one. That's a big one. And it's not an easy answer at all.
Well, the church survives in oppressed areas of the world. It thrives. Underground church is thriving because they don't have it. They can't do anything about it.
No,
All they can do is fall unto a loving Savior and ask for help and forgiveness.
correct. And it is in those moments of that, you know, frustration and and anguish and pain and all this other stuff that we go through that God's love and support and mercy and encouragement and strength is also found even in the deepest darkest recesses, right?
Yep.
And not that he is causing it. It is allowed. It is allowed. It's a moment to go, this has to happen for the bigger picture, for the bigger purpose, you know. So crazy. um let's talk about several of the things that you've done. I mean, obviously prayer's a lot of that. Talking with
Yep.
other people is a part of it.
Being in the
Anything else?
Word.
Staying in the word is a part
Yeah.
of it. Anything else specifically for you that sort of comes to mind?
Learning to recognize my triggers. And when, like today, I went in there about a month ago and blocked the day off on my calendar so that no one would be putting too many meetings on my calendar. Now, I've
Mm,
had a few meetings to keep me busy through the day, to keep me active, but not so many that I just couldn't take time to process.
yeah,
And I got a dog again a couple weeks ago.
amazing.
And I love that dog to pieces. And I haven't been, I've had collies most of my life.
Yeah.
Omega is his name.
Hmm.
He is the fourth collie that I've ever owned. My first two was Max, who was mine, and Jake was Richie's. When I had to put Jake to sleep, this was after Richie's passing. I told my vet, I'm like, I'm going to be a basket case. And he let me stay in the room with the dog after he put him to sleep for like maybe an hour. I'm sure the whole vet hospital heard me.
Yeah.
but having a dog again has brought, even after just a couple of weeks, so much joy to my life again,
Mm.
and gets me moving more, which is always good.
Yeah.
Go outside and we have a game of toss, or pull on his monkey that his Aunt Brenda got him, or bounce the ball, whatever it is, or just snuggle at the TV and watch Netflix,
I love it.
or snuggle on the couch and watch Netflix.
Yeah. Well, it is about that, isn't it? It's about just like going, I gotta move on. I gotta get
Yeah,
back. I gotta get back to life.
yeah. I'm not living like I'm dying.
I
Some people
got
may question me getting a dog. I've already made arrangements for any pets I have in my will, so it's taken
yeah,
care of.
good. It's moving on, buddy.
Yeah.
It's moving on and going. Whatever. I'm not granted there, and I think that that's a part of it, which is just like moving forward, which is huge. And I think a part of it too. It's also about just like learning to like legitimately, especially when it comes to resentment stuff, to just let go. You have to like literally forgive the situation and let go, because to hold on to it, it's just going to keep you absolutely trapped. And something else I wanted to share on here too. Talk about taking the log out of your own eye
Mm.
before taking the splinter out of somebody else's. But it's is there somebody I actually maybe I owe apologies to, right? Yeah. Like maybe it's very easy to get trapped in a thing like this person did this to me or whatever, but to like literally take a moment to go, hold on a second. Is there something where I actually owe an apology to someone, where maybe I need to be practicing the same sort of grace that God grants me continuously? Because God is always granting me grace for where I get it wrong, you know? So, any other thoughts for you before we wrap it up on this?
There's always a ton of thoughts. We could probably talk about this for another hour and a half and not touch on every subject, because every situation is different. Resentment shows up in different ways, lack of forgiveness, anger, the things. And the solution though is always going to be the same, time with God, time with others,
Yeah.
time in the Word.
Dig it. I'll share a
And
couple of links with some stuff too. From my Catholic background, I also have a thing which is called it's the litany of humility, and it's also
hmm,
the litany of patience. And it's just like a series of prayers of just like going, God, point out where I'm getting it wrong. Point out where
yeah.
I'm getting it wrong in this. But I do think that the key thing that we've both talked about in this is it's absolutely vital to invite God into it, you know,
Hmm.
because definitely it's not something that we can handle on our own. So there you go. Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode. If you like this, head on over to I'd rather be a buffalo.com, and you can also find us on Instagram at I'd rather be a buffalo. That's actually a great place to go and to like and subscribe to find out everything that we're doing, so we can help others on this journey and help you through life's storms with God's help. That's it. We will see you next time, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Bye.